Okay, so I feel like I need to introduce myself with every video upload because of my consistency. I knew frequent uploads was going to be very difficult on this channel due to my life schedule, so I am not surprised that I'm coming this late off of my last video with another video now. I don't even know when this video is going to be uploaded. I'm recording on the 22nd of March. The official release date of chapter 1177, which is the main thing that I've come back to YouTube to talk about. Alright, so chapter 1177, officially titled Furious. Still no cover story, but this time we do have a reader request featuring Robin planting some flowers, and I think it's pretty cute. We love to see Robin happy, that is for sure. But anyway, the chapter actually opens up with Zoro's group and the Giants taking on the Dami Reversi Giants, and I love how Colin really wants to watch the fight take on, you know what I'm saying? He is ready to watch heads fly. And after some quick taunts from the Dami Reversi Giants, one of them actually attacks Dory, and his spear actually pierces through Dory's shield and actually impales his left arm. Now, this should give you an idea of how strong the Dami Reversi Giants actually are, because if you look back in chapter 1111, Dory and Brogy were able to block an attack from Warkery in his Abyssal Covenant form. Now, I'm the last person to talk about power scaling when it comes to One Piece, but I feel like this is Oda being consistent and really emphasizing the fact that the Giants are significantly stronger than everybody else in the One Piece world. Their floors are just that high. And then you throw in some Dami reversing in there, yeah, I'm not surprised that something like this was able to happen. But you know, Dory just shrugs it off and says, man, look at how you guys submit to a new master. So much for the pride of the warrior pirates. You empty-headed fools should be ashamed of yourselves. And that kind of rallies up Brogy and the rest of the Giants as they get ready to fight. And then we cut over to another part of Elbaf of Team Chopper, where we see Kashi trapped in a 2v1 versus two Dami Reversi Giants whose names are DDT and Rhodes. Kashi understands that he needs to kill the Dami Reversi Giants in order to undo the Dami Reversi, but he can't find it within himself to do it. I can't blame him, these are Giants that he's known for decades, but to make things worse, it looks like he's protecting Scopper Gaban and Chopper, so he has no time to waste. He has to make a decision. Meanwhile, we got Brogy, Hadrugen, Dory, and Stenson killing their fellow comrades like it's nothing. Then top that off with Zoro landing a 3-sword styled Red Ogre Mega Rage and brutally killing off this giant hair. Like, has he been holding back this entire time? Even John Rule had to mention that, yeah, they seem a little too eager about killing these guys off. And I find it funny that nobody is pointing out the fact that Hadrugen managed to cut somebody in half with a punch. But we cut back to Team Chopper, where Chopper is yelling at Kashi to run away from the two Giants that are clearly overwhelming him. He lets Scopper, Gaban, and Chopper know that he can't do it. Gaban grabs one of his axes, Chopper pops Rumble Ball, and he immediately turns Monster Point and smacks one of the Giants. And that simple event of Chopper smacking the Dami Reversi Giant was enough for the Giant to fall over and flip back to its regular state. And in typical Oda fashion, he leaves us with just that. No further context on what the hell just happened. But regardless of the fact that this event now brings a huge question about how the hell Choppers did this, I'm so happy that we are finally getting some Straw Hats getting in action besides Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Sanji did take out Cunningham last week in 1176, along with Jinbei and Frankie doing the team attack to take out the Lindworm, which I thought was really dope. So seeing more than just Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy doing all the fighting is always a dope thing in One Piece. And seeing Chopper do this here, honestly, even though, like I said, it's raising some questions, I'd love to see Chopper get some spotlight. Speaking of Frankie and Jinbei, the chapter actually cuts to them next, where we see the aftermath of what they did to Killingham. And seeing this is actually very nostalgic, seeing Frankie tie up his body like this, because this is very nostalgic of what Nami did to Buggy way back in Orangetown. And Jinbei is holding Killingham's head by the hair, and Killingham is actually very, very annoyed and really disgusted by the fact that a fishman is holding him. Honestly, all I gotta say is, man, Karma came back quick. He was talking all that mess last chapter. Karma came back quick. Now he's helpless, being held by the very thing that he finds disgusting. Very fitting. Sanji, however, isn't impressed. So these are the knights who protect the Holy Land. I think we got too strong, Sanji. Luffy's an emperor now. Yeah, I'd like to believe that, but it's sickening to think that Elbaf was brought to its knees by this scum. Okay, so throughout the course of Elbaf, the community has never viewed the God's Knights as actual threats, with a lot of fans saying that the God's Knights can't be too strong for the Straw Hats because the Straw Hats are now a Yonko crew. Now we have a conversation between Frankie and Sanji within the narrative, which tells me that Oda is actually a lot more aware of the power scaling issues than we thought. And maybe they aren't issues, they actually might lead to something more relevant, especially with Killingham saying, "That's right, maggots, keep overlooking us." I'm not gonna look at that as throwaway dialogue from a defeated character. We get a funny moment with the crew as Loki and Luffy come out of nowhere and shock everybody with Loki's colossal size. Jinbei, Sanji, and Frankie are all fascinated by it, but Nami is not, which is not a shocker. She proceeds to snap and go in on Loki and Luffy for causing more fires throughout all of Elbaf, despite them being the ones that took out the Nightmare creatures, this is a valid crash out. I'm not upset about it, especially because it leads to one of the cutest panels we've seen in One Piece in a very long time, with Ragnar comforting Luffy after Luffy just got yelled at. Now Luffy tries to deflect the frustration back towards Loki, and Loki's not having it and blasts him with a shock breath. Now Luffy thought he was going to be in pain and realizes, oh, it's just lightning. And Loki asks, why doesn't it work on you? Well, if it did, I'd whoop your butt right now. And I feel like this is Oda's cheeky way of reminding everybody that Loki fires lightning and Luffy is immune to it, which may be a key factor at a future point in time. Not saying here in Elbaf, but maybe at a future point in the One Piece story. But while Loki is bantering, Luffy hears a boom in the distance and he looks over and he sees Brook pleading Usopp to run. Now, I've been a One Piece fan for a very long time. Throughout that entire time of being a One Piece fan, there's been one location that we've all been waiting for, and that's Elbaf. And Usopp's moment has been a fabled moment throughout the community for decades. I'm not saying this is said moment, but this is a taste of exactly what we wanted out of Usopp, and I am loving it. After receiving a warning about Umko from Brook, Usopp says, you expect me to run and leave a friend behind, Brook? A real warrior doesn't run away. I've been dreaming of this place for years, and I'm not going to humiliate myself here. More importantly, I'm furious. You see, Brook, these guys are disrespecting Elbaf. Usopp would go on to call out the Holy Knight's lack of honor, and Usopp even takes a knee to the face from Imko, and she also goes and disables Brook. But Usopp doesn't care. He gets up and continues his call out and says, if you want to rule them, at least have the pride to fight them head on, you coward. And I don't know if Usopp has realized it yet, but he has just stood up to the biggest possible threat he could ever come across and called that person the coward. If that's not character development, I don't know what is. Now, Imko replies, one who rules does not sully their hands with such tawdry matters. And Usopp's immediate response is to do an attack. He stood on business and he charges an attack called Skull Blast Grass. Imu jumped ahead of it and tried to stop it, but Usopp didn't care and fired it anyway, resulting in this huge explosion. Usopp, Brook, and Imko all get caught in the blast, but because Imko can regenerate, she walks away from it unscathed, while Brook and Usopp just lay there. And Luffy just witnessed all of that unfold. Now we get this really dope panel of Loki towering over Luffy and Imko, and once again showcasing his massive scale and how big he actually is. And I'm honestly skeptical about the actual scaling accuracy of this panel, but still, he's huge. Now, on a narrative level, the look on Luffy's face really reminds me of the look on Goku's face after Frieza killed Krillin. That look of realizing that a line has been crossed and games are no longer being played. Loki looks at Imko and says, this is the one, the source of the haki that reached the underworld. And of course, this is a reference to when Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and the others sensed the arrival of Imu on Elbaf way back at the end of chapter 1151. Luffy looks down at Usopp and Brook and then tells Loki that he's pissed. Loki replies, forgiveness was never an option, expressing that he's down for whatever's about to happen. And Imko replies to both of them, thou canst obey or die. Nika, Nidhogger. This battle will divide the world. June 4th, 2018 is the official date of Imu's introduction to the One Piece fandom, way back in chapter 906. And here we are nearly 8 years later, and we're finally seeing Luffy cross paths with Imu. 2,848 days of real world time actually went by before these two characters met. That's crazy. Like Usopp, I don't expect Luffy to understand what or recognize who he's dealing with right now, but the amount of haki that Imu's letting off should tell him that what he's about to face ain't no pushover. But now, like, I'm really excited to see how the next chapter plays out. With Somers already dealt with, Killing Him now being dealt with, and the Giants finding an answer to deal with the Damiroverse Giants, with the added addition that Chopper could do it himself, that leaves just Imko, and the momentum swings in the Straw Hat's favor. But like Killing Him said, stop overlooking us. So I don't know. And then there's the warning we got in chapter 1132 from Louis Arnott that said, do not overstay your welcome here. A lot of fans have theorized about time dilation being a thing on Elbaf. I personally never bought into the theories, but if they were true, these next couple of chapters may be where they could make an impact. I highly doubt it though. Regardless, I am excited for this next chapter. I hope we get answers on whatever the hell Chopper did, and hopefully this was the first of multiple moments that Usopp gets in this arc. I hope we get so much more. But that's all the time I got. I think I've yapped enough. But if you watch all the way through to the end, you're dope. Thank you, and I appreciate you for all your support. Feel free to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Kahamsha, that is at KAHAMSHA, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Kami out.